I think you just really need to sit down and determine. That's what I did fairly recently. Was I again looked at my schedule and said, "Man, I'm just too busy. What are those things that I really shouldn't be doing every day, even though I still wanted to do them because I felt like just faster for me to do it than it is to go train somebody and spend time with it, which is the number one question: who's going to train them? But once you will allocate that time, then I think it's going to free you up where you can really focus on those things that are important in your schedules in your life.
You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Welcome to Everyday Practices. I am your co-host, Reagan Robertson, joined today by my lovely, gracious, talented co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson. How are you doing today, Chad?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
What office are you in today?
Today is Pleasant Hill. Doesn't it sound so pleasant?
It does. It does. Sounds right. There was a movie. Wasn't there a movie called
Pleasantville?
Yeah,
that's what I think of. Pleasantville is a town south of here, about 15 miles. So I was thinking if I ever bought a practice there, I could be the dentist of all towns pleasant.
Would you do your artwork all black and white, like the befores, and then make them color like the movie?
I hadn't thought of that until now when you mentioned it. So yes.
All hypothetical. Well, we have a really special guest for our listeners today. I know you all know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, we love to have dentists on, and sometimes it's really nice to bring in the secret sauce that sits behind the support that really highly productive dentists utilize,
yes.
to make more of themselves, I guess you could say. So I met JW. How many years ago now? This is JW Oliver, everybody, by the way. JW, how long ago did I meet you?
Oh, I think we really first met in Plano at one of the events, right?
That's right.
Isn't that right? Yeah. And then I subsequently came up and visited with you there. That's right.
Just so people know, for reference, Productive Dentist Academy has 3, except for when COVID happens, we have 3 workshops a year. And so JW Oliver was one of the, what's the word for it, Reagan, when you have
educational partners?
An educational partner.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really important. I'm going to put that in my bio. Educational partner.
Yeah, you're an educational partner.
Oh, I came into dentistry with an unfair advantage of Dr. Bruce Baird and Victoria Peterson. So I was introduced, my very first interaction with PDA was at a live productivity workshop. And I got to watch Dr. Bruce from the front of the stage introduce the educational partners. And he said, "We will not bring you anyone that we haven't had in our own dental practices and have vetted and vouched for, and we can stand behind their product just like we stand behind our own." And so that set the tone for my introduction into dentistry. And so, yes, proud to say you are one of our educational partners and continue to be. So JW is the managing partner of SupportDDS and Zimworks.com. We actually utilize his services for our own PDA company as well. It's been a tremendous addition to us. And JW, your energy is like 4 times mine at least, I would say.
Which is saying a lot.
I'm just trying to see what that looks like, Chad. 4 times Reagan's energy.
Considering neither one of us, we don't utilize narcotics or anything, but we just have that natural flow.
Stimulants.
Natural stimulants. See,
Maybe
it's about my education level on that. So you just really, you blew my mind with all the different irons in the fire that you had. And there's a secret to it. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so I invited you to be a guest on our podcast today to talk about growth and talk about, leveraging yourself and leveraging that around you. So the first question I have, though, is how on earth did you go from selling Pop Rocks out of your locker as a kid to running 20 plus companies across the globe?
Well, I probably had 20 companies. A lot of them are very passive companies that we don't have. So I don't want people to think I'm like a CEO for 20 companies. We got 3 businesses that keep us really active. But that's interesting you say that, because when you look back, I had those times where operation in business and you just kept bumping into those ceilings. You grow and you think, man, we're going to hit X number of $1 million and we're going to this many customers. And then all of a sudden it just kind of peters out and you're thinking, well, what happened? Well, it's time. You only have so much time. You have to learn to delegate those tasks that you don't do well. So I'm just reading an interesting book called the Who, Not the How. And it's learning who does those things for you and not how do you do them. And I think that's important to remember is every time something comes up, a task that you need to handle, no matter how small it is, you really need to find out, is there somebody else that not only can do it better, but can do it in a shorter amount of time than you can spend on it as well.
Very cool.
Chad, how does that feel, especially with you opening multiple practices? I know you have delegating is one of your love languages, and
right.
I think you've done it well. I think I'm learning. So, I mean, how does that, Chad? How does that feel to you? Thinking about the delegation conversation.
Well, JW, I think you put it well, because when you delegate, then you're able to do what you want to and what you need to do, only to find now you need to delegate more, because you know what I mean? It's this crop that keeps growing.
Yep. That
when you finally have delegated everything and now you're free to do what your executive self needs to be able to do, then you find more tasks that you need to delegate. And what you're doing is you're creating wealth and you're creating jobs and you're creating opportunities for people to shine. And so like there could come a point, I suppose, JW, you might, get to this, point. I might, Reagan, you might, we all might, but like when you're 80 and you just go, I think I'm done creating. But like when, creating more jobs or more, and you're not looking just to simply create a job for someone, but you get what I'm saying? Like there isn't an end point where you just go, I guess I'm done. You said there was a plateau, JW, and when you get to that point too, then it's like, okay, well, that means now you're at a point that you can start, creating at the new level, which then when you go to the new level, you need to have new delegation to be able to have more support, which goes back to Victoria talking about, Reagan, how does she word that? More support is needed for more growth,
success requires support. And the more success, the more support is required.
I guess that's exactly what I'm trying to say. So what we're saying is Victoria is correct.
I want to take you through as a case study right now. I want to use you live on air, JW, because
thanks.
I am one of those people that I'll just do it myself.
Yeah,
like
just
faster. I think it might take me too long to explain it, and then I might not explain it correctly. And now I've learned from those pitfalls. But what would you say to people that are thinking that way? Like I can just do it myself. I can do it quicker. And I'll just keep running myself ragged unintentionally. Like how do they get from that mindset shifted into that I can really delegate? This is possible. I deserve this, all those things.
Well, it's interesting because I know that is what Productive Dentist is all about, is obviously being a productive dentist and understanding the time blocks and how to schedule, et cetera. It's interesting because when we started this company, which is ZimWorks now, and it was not about being in the dental space. It was basically, we saw it as a ministry where we would create jobs in Zimbabwe where they were well needed. You had these educated, highly educated, university educated personnel who could do these high level accounting, HR, marketing, animation tasks. And what happened, one of your customers, Dr. Nikki Green, came to me and said, hey, do you think they could do insurance verifications? And it was a perfect example of the fact that somebody in her office was doing it, and she knew that was a task that needed to be offloaded. Number one, they didn't like doing it, right? And number two, it was somebody who could do it better and more consistent and more accurately. And so it's interesting, getting to your point of your question, the biggest question we have on the SupportDDS is when we present to a DSO or a single dentist is they'll say, well, who's going to train them? And while we do about 2 weeks of a dental training course to give them the basics, we always have to kind of come back to, in a polite way, well, you are. But you begin to understand when I train somebody to do a task that I hate it too. I remember I used to do most of my accounting, and I had to train some people to offload all of that years ago. And I hated that piece of it. I was like, well, it's just faster for me to do it. I'll just knock it out and be done with it. Some of the paying of the bills and wiring transfers and things. And then you realize that that takes a significant amount of time. So I had to train somebody to do that. I had to train different people to handle certain aspects. And yes, it takes time, but literally in that short period of time that you get them trained, it's like the light goes off and you went, oh my gosh, I actually have some available time to do things, as Chad pointed out, that I want to do, not the things that I was just doing because I needed to get them done. And to me, that's a different mindset completely.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go from, ZymWorks, which is not dental related, which by the way, I referred ZymWorks the other day to a colleague of mine, not in the dental industry. And I said, they can help you like nobody's business. I know that would be a great fit. Here's my experience with them. And he came back with a lot of questions on who's going to train them, how much, how much knowledge do they have? And it was a really good exercise in that. So how did you go from that over into SupportDDS? Tell us about SupportDDS and what that company entails and how you kind of went into the dental space with it.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I was actually at a run with my wife and Nikki and her husband, and we were at a deal in California, and she was like, "You think they could do insurance verifications?" Which I knew nothing about. I've known dental equipment business for 30 plus years, but I didn't know about the back office. And so we tried it, and literally almost 4 years now that Melody is still working for her full time. She's got a couple working for her as well. So, we saw the success that had just within her office. And then at that point, we didn't have SupportDDS. It was just under the ZymWorks. And we said, oh yeah, we can supply that. And then quickly we realized that was growing. And now it's, oh my goodness, it's probably makes up 60% of our overall businesses. We've got represented over 400 dental offices now, and it's just really taken off and grown. So, and the reason it is because these basic core tasks that a dental office, Chad, that needs to be done every day. But you look at what that cost is at your front office, and should they be greeting the customer? Should they be taking care of the patient? Should they be presenting the treatment plans? Should they be worried about running the business, working, on the business, not in the business? Right. And I think that becomes really apparent and relieves a lot of those daily tasks from insurance, from scheduling. We were in an office the other day, or one of our girls in an office the other day, and just simply talked about, I believe it was 28% of all phone calls weren't getting answered. And it was a three office practice. And it was simply because they didn't have anybody to answer the phone. Right. And they were busy, and their practice is going well. And our Brenda at our office just said, well, just imagine if you answered all your calls. So, right. And that seems so simple, right? But it seems like a low level task that nobody can do.
But it's such major impact. I mean, you can put the data with that type of missed calls, that percentage, ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing that I think of too, is let's say you spent $10 for a pay-per-click for them to call you. Right. So like, it's not just that someone decided, I should just look up any old dentist. It's like, no, you probably, some people probably not, but like there's some doctors out there that are paying to have that funnel happen. And then you've spent money and wasted money. It's a waste only if you waste it. Like that you had a softball pitch come into your phone call and you just, you let the ball drop.
Well, and it was interesting, and we ended up doing some follow-ups to that, and there was 3 or 4 of those daily tasks where they were having to handle. They were pumping, like you say, Chad. They were really pumping to some of their pay-per-click advertising, some of their funnels to get people in, and he gave the cost. I think it was a little over $10 per call that they figured it cost to get a new patient in. And just the times that somebody we did some sample calling, and they were in a hurry. And they said, hey, can you tell me about your practice? I'm sorry, I've got somebody, it literally happened. This was last week. I got somebody in front of me. I can't talk to you right now, but what can I answer for you? Almost kind of short.
Oh, no.
And you're thinking, wow, the customer experience just went down. And it wasn't her fault. It was just that they were busy, and they were trying to juggle a phone and handle a patient and probably a checkout. So I think overall, it is about how much money, what's a client worth? I don't know. A recare is probably 150. I think an average a patient is like 750 or 760 national average. Lose a few of those, and it doesn't take long to pay for somebody to make sure these calls are getting answered or your benefits being posted properly, right? I mean, how many times does that happen in offices where they're just not, the EOBs aren't being done, things of that nature?
Right.
Wow. So, all of this, listening to this, what are some of the other, well, I think you kind of did. You kind of showed us what some of the other common reasons that dentists would be calling that could be helpful. It sounds very purpose driven to that. And I know creating an impact, JW, is super important to you. Why don't you tell us about, you kind of at the very beginning of this talked a little bit about being mission based and whatnot. What is your bigger picture and what is your greater goal in creating impact across the world?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Number one, you have to have a product, whether that's dentistry or whether that's marketing or whether that's a consulting or whether that's what we do. You have to have something that's beneficial, right? There has to be a value add proposition to it. So I think that's number one, what we bring. But number two, if we're just spinning this and we're trying to build a business with 3,000 or 4,000 people who are employed in Zimbabwe, then I don't think that has great purpose. But what we're doing is, my partner and I both, when we started it, we both have other businesses. I met him at a Christian event that was happening down in Curacao. It's called National Center for Fathering. And he was like, what can we do together? And so we started the concept of this. And we both agreed that when we did this, we said, let's give 51% of our profits back to ministries. Just like the Lord owns our business, then let's show him he owns it and let's give him the majority interest. So we've had that in place since day one. We've got local ministries that we support. Well, we have pastoral care within our company. So there's 2 full-time pastors that help out people when they're going through various needs. So that's an impact with our team. We've got impact within the country of Zimbabwe and the continent of Africa. And then we do things actually national or globally with globalaction.com, where we support changing of cultures in the kingdom through community. So really cool things. We really wanted it to be an impact. So literally, I tell people all the time, when you have a team member in Zimbabwe, you are doing ministry, whether you knew it or not, because in effect, that is affecting many others.
JW, can you tell us the backstory? I mean, so Zimbabwe, I mean, a lot of Americans go, okay, that's in Africa. But otherwise, I mean, otherwise, like I didn't really get it. So this is why I'm asking, because I didn't really get it until I heard you at one point. It was a few years ago, but it clicked then when you said, like their nation's history and why they're hungry to work with Americans. Why is that important from their perspective?
Yeah, no, good point. I mean, there's 54 countries in Africa. Zimbabwe, up until the late 70s, right around 1980, they were what was called the breadbasket of the entire continent. I mean, they had they were a British colony. They were formerly Northern and Southern Rhodesia. They were well educated. They're on a British-based system. It is many great universities are built still in the country. Unfortunately, they had a person come to power as a democracy, so to speak, and ended up running it pretty much as a dictator democracy, if you will. And while I think the intentions he had were good, he fought against some of the imperialism that was going on and wanted to free up the country, but it ended up just devastating their resources. There was land grabs in the 2000s. There was, they took over all of the mining and made it government operated. And literally, the country they had the highest inflation rate ever in 2008, ever recorded in the world. Their Zimbabwe dollar in 2008 went to, I've got one of them right over here. It is a $100 trillion bill, and they were having to make new money literally they were producing a new version of the money because it was spiraling out of control. They were printing new bills every day with new zeros behind them. And then in 2008, they just closed the country. They just closed the dollar down, or the Zimbabwe dollar, and went to the US dollar. President Mugabe was voted out of office in 2018, and they're under a new leadership now. And there's been lots of improvement. There really has been lots of improvement within the country. It's a very young country. The average age there is around 28 or 29. Our average age in our office is probably 27. And so you've got a lot of people who are hungry, they're willing to work. And you're right, Chad, for them to be able to work with, by the way, 80% unemployment unofficially. And so you've got a vast majority of people.
I can't wrap my head around that. I cannot wrap my head around 80% unemployed.
Yeah.
Do they receive government assistance? Like, are they able to live?
There's no government housing. There's no, there may be some pensions for people who retire, but most of those were based in the old Zimbabwe dollar, so that hyperinflation just wiped them out. But no, you're right, Reagan. They 80% is hard to fathom when we see 10% as being just out of control, right? But they do it. They get by, and it's amazing. So they can take, and that's why even with the jobs that we provide, when you hire one person in our office, you are most likely supporting 4 or 5 members of that family. Could be brothers and sisters, husband, wife, kids, grandparents, parents, things like that. So those jobs are real critical and real important. They're very appreciative of their jobs. We find we have just the greatest people by and large. They love their jobs. They love to come to work. We're in a Class A building in downtown Harare, so they dress. I'm always dressed so dressed when I go in there because they really show off, and it's just amazing the pride they take in themselves. And then of course the language is not the issue, as you know. It's they sound like they're speaking to the Queen, and so they've got this perfect little British accent that makes it nice.
I do feel like I should dress up. I absolutely feel like I should dress up. Every time I have a Zoom call. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like I'm talking to royalty or something, right?
And this is a downtown high-rise building that your office over there is located in. I just want people to put into context, because I mean, if they have a perception of what a call center might look like in a foreign country, these people are college educated by and large. Yep. And they have a strong desire to support you basically because their family depends on it, and they also they would be doing some spectacular jobs, but the economy wouldn't really afford for it historically over the last couple of decades. And so they might be engineers, they might be a certain college degree of one form or another, but they're making these calls because it helps pay the bills.
Yeah, we've got people that are trained 3D, 2D animators. We've got engineers, folks that are doing CAD CAM type drawings. We've got lots of people in accounting who are chartered accountants, which would be, even above a CPA level here. So just really talented people who want to work, and the exposure to the international community is important to them. That's pretty desirous, is to be working in a company where they have exposure to some, they can put that on their resume as an example. So I work for Productive Dentist Academy in Washington, and that's a big deal on the resume as they're building their portfolio too. So it is important. But you're right, the call center, it's not a sweatshop. It's not dogs. You don't hear dogs and cats in the backgrounds, and like you might at my house right now if you hear my dog bark. But you don't hear. Literally a funny story. But I've outsourced for years, and 5 or 6 years ago we had a really good girl. She was a sweet girl, worked in India, so she worked at the night, and there was not uncommon at all to hear the rooster crowing in the background. I mean, that was it was just kind of part of it.
That's true.
It really is true. You hear that now. I was talking to somebody from the bank the other day, Chase Bank, and literally I heard the roosters in the background. I thought, okay, they're in India or Philippines or somewhere.
I don't know. My neighbor has some chickens, so if I'm working from home, I tell you what, you may hear a rooster.
You I was talking to.
I wanted to, here's the factoid for the engineers. I wanted to multiply this out and make sure that I got it right. 100 trillion is 10 to the blank power. I'm just going to let it hang for a second. But that $100 trillion, of Zimbabwe dollars or whatever, there it is on video if we are ever able to show that or screenshot it. But $100 trillion, 10 to the 11th power. Holy moly.
Yeah,
Wow.
$100 trillion. Yeah, you can actually go online. I've got some other ones in there that are original. Those are some ones you can frame. But yeah, you can go to eBay and type in Zimbabwe dollar, and they'll say you a pack. I don't know, they're $400 or $500 now. They've gotten kind of value since they've gotten a little more scarce to have that in your
Right.
paper collection. But yeah, it's hard to imagine, Chad. Right? I mean, $100 trillion.
Yeah.
That's a big number.
And there's something interesting that caught my attention very early on in meeting you, JW, that was really heartwarming to me, is how you care for the mental health of your team. So you have an on-site pastor, right?
Yep.
In Harare
Yep.
that takes, and that, I mean, walk us through that, because I think that's really interesting. I've never been part of a company that has an on-site pastor. Now I do have an on-site CEO, Victoria Peterson, who does take us through lots of fun meditations and EQ exercises, and I
He's
have
good.
learned breathing techniques and coping. I mean, she has been good, but tell us
That's
about
true.
that.
Well, it's interesting. Victoria and Bruce have both been to our office there. I went there pre-COVID, obviously, and got to see it firsthand. But yeah, we have two full-time pastors. As we were growing, kind of overwhelmed one, and we have two. They literally are concerned with the well-being of each team member. We hold 3 times a week devotionals. They do a TED Talk once a week. They are there when people have family losses, when they're going through a loss of a parent, or during this COVID, there was a few grandparents that passed away. They were there during that. They're there to help. They've officiated weddings. They've been there when people are having. We had a couple who have had some issues with in their marriages. They were able to go through some counseling with them. So that's their purpose. They are 100% devoted to our team. And they're there on a daily basis to walk around, to see if they can help them, to be there to pray with them. And we've even had a few that they've had some interactions with some of our clients too. They've invited them to, hey, join our weekly devotionals and just hear what we have going on. So there's no doubt that has been one of the biggest pieces of the pie that we've been able to put together. And you don't hear about it. You're right. I only know one other company. It's actually where I got this idea from. They were a big barbecue company here in Texas, and I met one of the guys that was the pastor. I said, "You're a pastoral care for Babe's Chicken?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Oh, Babe's Chicken.
Oh, it's Babe's Chicken. Oh no.
Yeah, Babe's
Chad,
Chicken. So they
Chad's
have
love just went even higher.
Oh yeah, they had 2,000 employees with all their restaurants. They got different brands, and I'm sitting beside the guy at a conference, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, I'm one of the pastors for Babe's Chicken." I went, what does that mean? Like,
I bless the food. Yeah.
Okay, bless all the food before it's cooked. So
that's why that chicken is so amazing. Now you were saying a company, and I'm just thinking, a company in Texas. It's funny though, Reagan is right. As soon as JW was like, Babe's Chicken, it's like, whoa, slow down. Let's make sure that everyone knows. If you visit Dallas Fort Worth area, Babe's Chicken. There's more than one location. It's I've not had fried chicken so amazing.
No, Chad took our he went I think it was in February 2020. Chad was like, you have to come try the Babe's Chicken. So me and several
Dana,
other teammates.
am I right? Right, Dana?
And it is the best fried chicken I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's some, and they've got. I didn't know they had so many restaurants. They've got 8 or 10 of the Babe's Chicken, and then they've got some other brands that they have too. So yeah, absolutely. I was floored by, how many companies do you know that have a full-time pastoral care staff, right?
Yeah.
I'd never heard of such a thing. And so we were just marveled by the idea. And we said, I came back, called my partner. I go, we're hiring pastors. He said, we're doing what? I said, we're going to have full-time pastors. And that's been a little over, coming on 3 years now, I believe, 2.5 years. Yeah, it's just been fantastic too.
So JW, let me ask. So a dentist is listening to this going, that's great for you. You're doing a lot of stuff and whatever. And let's say the person even just goes, I just don't know if I could need, because some people want SupportDDS. Some people might just, even though you might say, well, you need it, even though you don't realize it. But, so that's debatable. Sure. What I'm saying is, though, for the people that are like, okay, so let's say there was a take-home message of how I could run my dental office more like how you've run your business. What are the transcendent shall we call them secrets? I mean, I hate to throw that word. The principles. What are the transcendent principles that that if all of a sudden you had a dental office, this is how you would run it and why that should matter to the dentist listening to it. Ready, go. Okay. And you only get 10 words. Just kidding.
That's a big question, Chad.
It is a big question. Sorry.
Could you repeat the question, please?
No, I probably can't.
Rewind that. Yeah, I would. It's interesting because while I've been in the dental for 35 years, that would date me a little bit. I've never, I didn't know anything about the operations of dental offices until the last probably 4 or 5 years in terms of the structure of them. And I tell you, if I was going to be involved in a small DSO, or if I was a dentist and I was going to run it, I literally would start and sit down with each of my team members and find out what do they do every day, and really identify, okay, how much time are you spending on this task? Maybe it's recare. Maybe it's how much time I'm spending on filling what about cancellations? I know this office we were doing the other day, they took cancellations over the recorder. So you know what, guess what? People are going to call after hours and cancel, right? So there was all these things that they didn't want to do or that their team members were doing. And then I would ask them, or I would evaluate each of those team members and say, what is it you can do that's more productive? Not only what are the things you don't like to do, what are you not good at doing? And I would determine what those are, and then I would implement those into my practice as quickly as I could, because you just said it too, Chad. I mean, there's a ceiling, and there's a ceiling for your office manager. There's a ceiling for somebody handling all your insurance and claims and collections. And if you can provide them with someone who could do a little bit of all that, and that's the benefit too, you could hire one person in a dental office that does some of your collections, some of your scheduling, maybe confirming appointments, maybe catching the overflow calls. I use Nikki Green as an example. I know when they do their weekly huddle on Wednesday morning, I know that Melody answers their phone during that period of time, so she doesn't have to turn it over to an answering service or not take calls during that 1 hour time. So I think you just really need to sit down and determine. That's what I did fairly recently. Was I again looked at my schedule and said, man, I'm just too busy. What are those things that I really shouldn't be doing every day, even though I still wanted to do them, because I felt like just faster for me to do it than it is to go train somebody and spend time with it, which is the number one question, who's going to train them. But once you will allocate that time, then I think it's going to free you up where you can really focus on those things that are important in your schedules in your life. Chad, it can even be personal things. I mean, sometimes just booking a trip or changing, if you're moving and changing electricity and all the things that have to go along with that. Sometimes it's even those little personal things that you go, you know what, that person could help me do it as well.
Yep. That goes back to Ashley's GSD.
Oh, yes. Shout out to Ashley Hirschfeld.
Yep. Getting stuff done.
Ooh, I like that.
Yep.
Getting something done. Yeah.
Stuff.
Stuff, sure.
What did you think the S stood for?
It stands for the SH word, or my son would say the S word.
Or as my dad would say, because he was a Marine that had reformed his ways, so he would say stuff.
Stuff.
The SH word, stuff.
JW,
man, we've got GSD, we've got Elvis's TCB, taking care of business, and we got Africa, when things can't get done very fast, it's TAB. That's Africa, baby. So look at all the little acronyms we got.
That's Africa, baby.
If something takes too long, they just say TAB. That's Africa, baby.
Oh, we have island time here. Since I'm on an island, that's what we go. Oh, it must be island time.
It means somebody's drinking somewhere.
Yep. Well, so what's really fascinating to me about you is, and I definitely aspire and look up to, is you always have something going on, but you, underneath that surface, you're very, very purpose driven. Yeah. And, there was in your bio, it said you hike 6 days from Cusco to Machu Picchu, all after the age of 48. So you've completed half Ironman races, 10 half marathons. You're a pilot, ordained minister, author, podcast host, business owner, husband, father, son. I mean, you've got all of these titles that that take up a lot of your time. They demand a lot of your time. What does a day look like for you? I genuinely want to know, like, from the minute you wake up, how does your day go?
Man, that's an interesting question, isn't it? I have reserved that I only do meetings now on Mondays and Thursdays. I used to scatter them throughout the week, and my weeks were just blown up. I mean, I'm like, I got 1 a.m. on Tuesday. I got to go somewhere Wednesday afternoon. I need to be here on Thursday. So I literally, and I try to have them all done by 2 o'clock. So I start really early because of Africa. We've got our people there we can deal with very early. I do wake up at between 4:30 and 5 every morning. I allocate usually about 7 to 2 on Mondays and Thursdays for my meetings. So I've got a lot of team members that we meet with, a lot of leadership people. I'll put them in those slots. We track everything with some project managers that we can track. What goals are they working on? What needs to be delegated? Probably the most important thing I did. I had a girl who, Clara, and Clara can hear this, and she knows how important she is for me. And actually, my personal coach, said, you've got to get an executive assistant to start handling a lot of these tasks. So a couple of years ago, I was just like going, well, I don't need that. I can do all this. And boy, if Clara is out for the day on vacation or for any other reason, it's like unbelievable, because now I can send her messages. I send little voice memos all the time. So that really has been this sounds crazy, but it's probably brought me back about 30 to 40% of my day in just having someone I could handle. Because she's on all my emails, so she sees all my emails. She can respond to them. She'll delete the junk that's not in there, and just that has literally brought probably 35% of my time back that I can
sounds
use.
amazing.
It is. I mean, it was transformational for me. And that stuff takes forever to go through all your emails and sort through returning a phone call, even if it's just to call somebody and say, yo, that's a good time. That took some time right there.
That's so
true.
Chad, you look like Chad. You look like you're like about to eat ice cream or something like that you really enjoy.
I know, or giggling, because you know what I was gonna ask next. Could I mail them my cell phone? And they could just answer for me. That would be so amazing to be like, yeah, just go ahead and call my assistant at any given time.
Well, what's crazy is I've actually looked into, there is a way that you can take your chip, your SIM card, and you can set that up through the different carriers where they can have the same SIM card and answer your phone for you. So that's been a thought in my mind as well. I no longer answer my phone.
This sounds amazing, because one of my retirement goals is to not have a cell phone.
Oh,
can you imagine?
I've actually read some people very high level people that don't carry a cell phone.
Well, see, if I weren't in the hustle of life, I would do that. But like, I want to be involved and everything like that. But there's part of me that just goes, wouldn't that be cool to, if someone said, hey, why don't I just give you a call? No, I don't. I don't.
Hey, one of my highly productive.
I don't have a phone.
I don't have a
phone. Oh yeah, one of my very best friends. She will not. She has phone on time and phone off time, and she is very strict about it. No phones in the bedroom at all.
Right.
No phones with you. I mean, everything has a start, like an open and a close for her, and she's very intentional.
Luxury.
And I see her accomplish a lot.
Yeah, that's luxurious. Can you imagine to not have a cell phone? I mean, it would be a luxury.
Right. But it's also our choice.
You get sucked into the whole smartphone email hell, social media. Next thing you know, you were answering a phone call and you hung up and you went, let me hit my Facebook real quick. Oh, what's going on over here? And
my children don't understand why they can't have a cell phone. And I told them that is the cigarette of this generation. I said, man, you see me hooked to it. Like, I'm sure my parents didn't, but some other people went for cigarettes. Like, you never see it. I was just thinking
that cigarettes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't do what I do.
That's what I said. No. That's exactly what I told them.
Don't get a cell phone. Just don't get a cell phone. We should start like a Facebook group. We don't own cell phones.
How about a non-Facebook group? Like, let's do a chain mail.
How about meet in person or page me? Hey,
at Babes. Me. Yeah. All the listeners, let's meet at Babes Chicken twice a year. And you know what? That would be a better interaction than you get what I'm saying. That's yeah.
Amen.
Well, JW, I appreciate you coming on today, kind of talking through. We didn't really have a set agenda. I do want people to, check out SupportDDS, because, that's worth at least checking into, especially because, I don't want to, undersell your product or anything like that, or the services, but it's just like if they actually looked at how competitively priced it is, I think that's when because if someone's thinking, well, I don't want to pay another admin person, it's like, okay, just at least do me a favor as a listener and check it out, because it's affordable on a US standard, and then it's so beneficial and helpful on an international level to the Zimbabwe people.
Oh gosh, Chad, right? Isn't there's going to be a $15 minimum wage increase in at least certain states, right? I know there is in Seattle already.
Great point.
So you can
and when does it stop? I mean, let's just stop on the political stuff. But I mean, at some point, I don't care if it's 50 years from now or 5 years from now, but at some point it has to be 15. And at some point it becomes 20. And at some point it becomes 500 an hour. And, just because of inflation, I don't mean that even in a political way. Because of inflation, you get to the $100 trillion, per bill, then $15 doesn't matter much. So, very good point that, labor changes because of that decision on how to address that. It's worth, as a listener, at least checking into SupportDDS for the sake of not firing someone, but having that person more dedicated to the in-person stuff. So that way, your personability and, your service is top notch when the person at hand is there in person.
Your patient experience is seamless.
I want to say that right up front. We're not trying to, there was always the office manager that's worried about their position. That is never the goal. The goal is just, how do you become more efficient in your practice?
Yes.
Raise your revenue too. You're going to increase your revenue. Guaranteed. You're going to complete your satisfaction of your team members in your office are going to be higher. But you're right, Chad. I think go to supportdds.com.
Yeah.
Just look at it. We've got videos of some of our team members on there. You can hear them speak. Schedule an interview. We let you do this right here on Zoom. You interview them in person. You're under no obligation. If that doesn't work for you, not a problem. But I think it's worth at least taking 30 minutes out of your day and say, hey, this might work for me. At least look at it as an option.
Yep. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and hope you have a good rest of the week. Listeners, thank you for listening in to J.W. Oliver from Texas talk through, his thoughts on entrepreneurial success and on executive success, because for sure, J.W., you have executive success, the likes of which I think some people, as Dennis might think, well, how is this going to relate to me? It's like, no, if they're good listeners and they're willing to learn, this interview had a lot of potential for them to learn some nuggets in there. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a great time. It's always good to be on. Always good to see both of you.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with everyday practices.